Hi everyone, this is Nana with Tangle Time Arts, and this is week 3 of our weekly tangles. And we're going to take a look at one of my favorite tangles, Nzeppel and Crazy Nzeppel. This is one of my favorites because it has a very nice organic look to it, and it looks difficult, but it's actually really easy. For today, you'll need a piece of computer paper to practice. And I do have a Sakura Micron 01 and a PN, as well as just a plain black pen. I have a number 2 pencil, a tortillon, and I also have a white Zentangle tile, which is 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. All right, we're going to start with our computer paper and just a regular black pen. And Nzeppel, original Nzeppel, starts with a grid pattern. So we're just going to draw several parallel lines. And then you can rotate your paper if it's easier for you. You're going to make parallel lines this way. So you have a basic grid. And then we're going to make more lines. So we're just going to do a diagonal through there. And those are also parallel lines on the diagonal, like that. And then we're going to keep going. And it doesn't have to be perfect. This is just practice. And then we also want to have diagonals going the other way. And if it's easier to rotate your paper, go ahead and do so. Once you have your grid set up like that, and that's probably actually the hardest part of this entire tangle, we are going to do the fun part. So you can pick any one of these little triangles that you want. I'm going to kind of start from the left and work my way over. So I'm just going to pick one, and I'm going to follow along one of the lines. And when I get to a corner, I'm just going to turn that corner and then follow along the next line, turn the corner, follow the line, and turn the corner. And you basically end up with like a little pebble shape in there. You can move on to the next one, and the same thing, follow the line, round out that corner, follow the line, round the corner, follow the line, and round the corner. And you're just going to keep doing that. If you need to rotate your paper, go ahead and do so. And you're just going to fill them in like that. Some will be a little thinner, some will be a little wider. They don't all have to look the same. And that is Nzeppel. And you can continue on and fill out that entire grid for practice. I'm going to set this aside and switch to our tile, our actual project for today. So let's put this aside and take a white tile. And I'm going to start with a pencil, and I'm going to put in our 4 dots. And then I'm going to lightly with the pencil connect those 4 dots. Your lines don't have to be straight. All right. And once we have that in place, I'm switching to a Micron 01, which has a nice thin line. And I'm going to put in the grid for the Nzeppel at about the halfway point here. I'm just going to draw a line. And then I'm going to rotate a little bit. I'm going to do the same on the other side. So we kind of have like a plus sign. And then we're going to connect these two dots in a diagonal. And I'm going to rotate again and connect these two with the diagonal, making sure all of these lines have met in the center. All right. And then I'm also going to take my pen and just ink over the pencil line. Like that. Now I'm going to switch to my PN, my Micron PN, just because it's a little bit wider and it has a nice effect when you use the PN to fill in that area. You can pick any one of these triangles to start with. I'm going to start up here and I'm going to follow along the line we already have and then round out that corner. I'm going to rotate so that it's more comfortable for me and keep going around that corner. And keep going and go around that corner. Now, I like to leave quite a lot of space in my corners, but if you prefer to get closer to the point, that's fine. You'll find your own style. And now I'm going to do the same for the next one here. And sometimes I work clockwise and other times I work counterclockwise. It just depends on what's comfortable for me. And I'm going to keep working my way around. We're making slow, deliberate lines or strokes and just enjoying the process. And I like to use Nzeppel quite a lot in my projects because it's an awesome tangle to fill space with. And we're at our last triangle. Now you can kind of see with the wider tip that it really makes our little pebbles stand out. If you don't have two different pens, that's totally fine because Nzeppel will look great anyway, really, that you do it. Oops. All right. So we have that filled in. And actually we could shade this. This could be considered done. But I'd like to take it a step further and show you Crazy Nzeppel and we're going to put Crazy Nzeppel within the Nzeppel. Okay, so I'm going to switch again to my 01, and I'm going to draw some lines within one of these pebbles. When we do Crazy Nzeppel, we don't set up a strict grid like we did before. With Crazy Nzeppel, your lines can go any which way. So I'm just going to start, let's start just in the middle here, and I'm going to draw a line across like that. And then I'm going to rotate my tile and I'm going to draw another line, but I'm going to go this way. I'm going to rotate again and draw a line all the way over to there. And I think that's all I want for that particular one. I'm going to rotate my tile and pick another. You can pick any of these. I'm just going to kind of go in order here. And I'm going to go off of this line and go this way. You could have started anywhere you wanted to. I just wanted to start with that one. I'm going to rotate, and I think I'm going to mirror that and go this way. Rotate again. I'm going to put something over there. And then I would like to rotate again and maybe do something. What should we do? Trying to think. I'm going to go like that. Okay, I'm going to rotate this. And I'm going to go to the next one. And I'm going to start down here this time. And I'm just putting in a random line there. And then I'm going to rotate again. And maybe I just want to do something simple like that. And that's it for that one. I think I'm going to skip this one and leave it as it is and come over here to this one. And I'm just going to put in some random lines. Let's put a lot in this one like that. There we go. Rotate a little bit. And then I'm going to go off of this one here. So each one of our little pebble shapes that have more lines in it, more random lines, they're not the same number of lines. Like this has 2, and this one has 1, 2, 3, and this one has 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. They can have any number of lines that you'd like. And for this one, I'm just going to try something more of like a zigzag, like that. And we'll see how that looks. And I'm going to leave that one blank as well. I'm going to go back and switch to my PN, which is a little bit wider. And if you don't have one of these, that's okay. You can just use the pen you use to make the lines. And I'm going to start, we'll just start up here, just like we did before. We're going to round out the corners, follow the line, round a corner, follow the line and round a corner, and come back. So now I've got a little pebble within a pebble. And we're going to keep doing that. And I like to use the word pebble because that's what they look like to me, like little pebbles. And here's a different one where we have more corners to follow, but the same principle applies for each one. And I've got a really tiny area here and another tiny area here. rotate a little bit and keep going. All right. I'm going to rotate and move on to this next area. For this one, because it's already kind of rounded out, I'm just going to leave that like that. And for these areas where I added the extra rounding, I'm going to just add a little weight here and fill those in. And that's kind of optional. It adds a nice effect. All right, now moving on to this next area, I only had 2 lines, so we don't have as many areas to fill in. And with this one, I'm just really rounding out the areas that have the sharp points. That. All right, I think I'll add a little bit of weight to this one because we don't have any pebbles in there. So that would look kind of nice. I'm gonna rotate and just keep going. You can pick any of the ones that you want to work with. You don't have to go in order at all. I think I'll start kind of in the middle here. And it's really fun to play around with Nzeppel and Crazy Nzeppel and really make it your own. With the shading too, I'll show you one way to shade, but you can experiment with that and find your own style. That one had quite a few little pebbles in it, which is kind of cool. And then over here, just going to add a little weight to this one. All right, and then we're on to this area with the zigzag lines. I might add a little weight here for interest. I added a little weight there. And you can call it adding a little weight, or you can call it adding a little love. There we go. So we're all filled in. And we can look around and see if there's any other areas that we'd like to add a little love to. Maybe I'll add some here. It just adds a little interest if that's something you'd like to do. That's optional. It's not required. Maybe I'll add some here. All right, I think that looks good. Put a little here for emphasis. And that looks awesome. So another thing that you can do is I'm going to leave these uninked in because I feel like I like the lines. They look really cool. But some people actually like to ink those in. That's completely up to you. At this point, we could do some shading. And let's just see if I'd like to add a little more weight somewhere else. I always like to rotate and make sure. Oh, I think I'm good. I think that looks cool. Okay. So I'm going to put my cap on my pen and take a pencil, a number 2 pencil, and I'm going to shade the larger ones first. And I actually like to put a lot of graphite on the paper. A, so that you can see it better with the camera, but B, I just like the effect. So I'm going around the corners and along the straight lines and adding some graphite, but especially adding them on the corners. I'm going to do the same on this one. All right. And then I'm just going to start working on my smaller areas, doing the same thing. With a smaller pebble, you might not add as much graphite. You might just add a little touch of that. And again, this is just one way you can shade. And the smaller areas go pretty quickly. And I'm going to go back and get these two over here. And rotate around and do this other group. For the smaller areas, I'm just adding a touch of the graphite because once we start shading or blending with our tortillon, you can use what's on the tortillon to fill in those areas. And especially the more you use your tortillon, the more graphite it will have on there. Not adding much to that because it's so small. And then I am going to add a little graphite along the outer edge. All right. If we missed any spots, we can go back later and fill them in. I'm going to trade my pencil for a tortillon. Mine's a little bit longer so that it's easier for me to use, but yours might be a little shorter. All right, we're going to start with the larger ones. And you're just gently rubbing the tortillon back and forth, blending in those areas, starting at the edge and bringing it towards the center. Rotate your tile as you need to. Again, starting at the edge of the incline and then pulling it towards you. You can see how it brings the graphite out into the center. And kind of round those edges out. And this is where you really get some depth and you get the really cool effect of it maybe actually being a round pebble. And I bring it pretty far into the center. And if you want, with your tortillon, you could add a little bit of an accent there. I'm going to move on to the next one that's also the larger size. And again, starting along the ink line and pulling it towards the center. This tangle really helps you develop those skills with shading. And that's probably another reason I love this one because I really enjoy shading. Shading is one of my favorite things. And remember, if you feel like after you've blended and done your shading, if you feel like it's not dark enough, you can go in and add more graphite. There we go. Now I'm just going to start randomly blending in the smaller ones. Just taking my time. I don't always work in order, so I kind of tend to bounce around a little bit. And that's just how I work. Add a little mark there. So I'm going to rotate and go on to the next area. With the smaller ones, you don't really need to do a lot because there's not a lot of graphite in there. And you might not even do all the way around. Maybe you just did two sides like I did on that one. Rotate a little bit. And if you don't have a tortillon, no worries. You can just use a cotton swab. A little accent there. Okay. All right. I don't know if you can see in the camera, but it's starting to definitely have um come off the page much better. All right. We're more than half finished. Rotate my tile a bit. Go on to the next area. And really take your time with the shading. You don't have to try to keep up with me. You can pause this and work on it at your own pace. This one's going to get a little accent there. And I'm just able to do that like that because there's so much graphite on the tortillon. Rotate a little bit, go to the next section. And again, with these, I go pretty quickly. I'm kind of just going around, but starting from the outside and then bringing it more towards the center. So accent there. All right, and then the last thing we have to do is kind of go around the outer edge just to kind of pull it all together. And then we made our way all the way around. And that is Nzeppel with Crazy Nzeppel. If you would prefer to fill in some of these areas, ink them in, you can go ahead and do that. But I just love leaving the lines. It creates this wonderful web-like look. And I just really love that. I am going to take my pen and put my initials in there, or your chop, as they call it, and really rotate your tile and find an area where you can put those in. And I think I'm going to put mine in here. I can just kind of tuck it in like that. So I've got my N and my H in there. And then I'm going to turn it over and I am going to put my name on it. And then I like to put the date. And we're doing our weekly tangles. and this was week 3. And we had Nzeppel and Crazy Nzeppel. And both are by Zentangle. Okay. So that's just a very brief intro to my favorite Tangle and Nzeppel and Crazy Nzeppel. And I do use this all the time. And please feel free to try different variations as far as inking in these areas and also shading with your graphite and even adding color with a colored pencil. That's always really super fun too. You can get some great effects with these and they can turn out more like gemstones. So have fun with it, everyone. It's been awesome sharing my very favorite tangle with you. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Love you guys. Bye.